Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining Dorsey Ross on this episode of The Dorsey Ross Show. In this episode, Dorsey interviews another special guest that will give you hope and inspire you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining me on another episode of The Dorsey Ross Show. Today we have a special guest with us. Her name is Gina Economopoulos. She was born in Syosset, New York, to a strong Italian and Greek-loving family. She graduated from Eastern Connecticut State University and bartended before embarking on a 12-year convent journey after her mother's passing. Settled on the Jersey Shore, Gina now works as an end-of-life doula, extending a compassionate heart to those in their final chapter. She found solace in sobriety as a proud Alcoholics Anonymous member, and her story of resilience through tragedy and faith inspires others to face life challenges. Gina, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a joy and a pleasure to be with you today.
Absolutely. Well, I like to open up with some icebreaker questions, and today's icebreaker question is: What did you want to be when you were a kid, and why?
Okay, when I was a kid, I wanted to grow up and get married at the age of 18, have 5 kids by the time I turned 25. I just wanted to be a house mom and a wife, because just from growing up in a large family and seeing my parents, the love they have, and that's what I wanted to do. So.
Did that happen?
Oh, of course not. You know what they say? Yeah, that was not, did not realize that was not in my plan, or in God's plan for me, I should say. I thought it was my plan because that's what I wanted, like every little girl, right? I was not very ambitious to go and work. I just wanted to have a large family.
What would you like to speak about today on the show? Is there anything specific that you want to talk about?
Really nothing specific. Well, I guess giving the message of hope and strength, because in my life, been through a lot of, like we all have, right? We all have a story to tell, and I guess to share in my story is that how I never gave up. Perseverance, just kept moving forward, and then in the long run, took a while for me in hindsight to say, wow, God was with me every step of the way, whether I realized it or not, which most of the time when I was in that pain and suffering transition time of that darkness, where is God? Who is God?
Right.
So my journey was like not knowing God, not liking him, and now loving him. So whatever you like me to share, I'd be more than happy to share.
Well, you just mentioned your story. Can you share with us a little bit about your story to myself and to my audience?
Yes, I can. As you had shared, I was born on Long Island. Like I said, I was from one of 8 kids. The 7th child, a great childhood, unconditional love from my parents. Went to college, got a 4-year degree. And of course, I was raised Catholic. I received all my sacraments, but yet once I went to college, I didn't need God. I didn't need the church. Not that I didn't believe. I just was one of those. To be honest with you, I was searching for love and acceptance in all the wrong places. I wasn't really comfortable in my own skin. To be honest, I didn't like myself in hindsight. I was insecure. So, as a child growing up, being insecure, yes, I got the love from my parents, which I know it was God now, God's love. But yet I was just searching for the material things, for other things, like I said, in all the wrong places. So I went through college. I got a degree in social work. And as well as I became a great pool shark. And so that was like my 2 degrees. And at that point, my life was like, oh, I want to have fun in life, just have fun. And so I went to go live with my family. My parents moved from Long Island, Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, the capital over there. And so I went to go live with them and I had to get a job. And so I got a bartending job because it was social work. It was in that scene that I felt very comfortable in. Like everybody knew me. I have a personality plus, so I was able to talk to everyone. But as a bartender, it's like I said, like a social worker. They come in, share your problems, and then you kind of like, oh yeah, whatever. Then you take their money and you let them go. You don't have to deal with paperwork. You don't have to deal with the government. Which, to be honest with you, I was not I'm not good in paperwork or government, or I barely graduated from college, but yet, God had carried me through all that. And then as I'm bartending, now I have a new goal in life. And my new goal is that I'm going to be work in the hospitality field, work on a cruise line, the Love Boat, like a cruise director. Yes, and because I guess I was looking for the easy way life, just to have fun. And so I did. I apply to cruise lines, and but during that time, my mother was diagnosed with cancer, with bone cancer, and she was given 4 to 6 months to live, terminally ill, and this was back in 1991. And it just so happens that I was home. I was home when she had this diagnosis. All of my other 7 siblings were on their own, like whether they were married. My younger brother went off to college. So I wasn't going to leave my father with my mom in this condition. So I stayed. It wasn't a hard choice. I just ordered because of the love I have for my parents. And I did. And I stayed, and I took care of my mom with my dad. And that's where prayer came back into my life. That's where going back to church. And that's where I was bargaining with God. If I pray this, heal my mom. If I pray this, heal my mom. But ultimately, like I said, she had bone cancer, so she died in 5 months. And I was 23 years old. And when she died, I literally died. I didn't have any faith. I didn't have any hope. I didn't have any love. And I didn't have any God in my life, like a relationship. I knew who God was, but not in a relationship. So I did searching, because at the wake, everyone kept saying, she's with God, she's with God. And I was like, who's this God person? And why did he take my mom? And so I went back into the church to say, hey, God, I don't want to talk to you, but I want to talk to my mom. And so as time went on, as I continued to go into the church and praying, and I do believe my mother prayed for me too as well, that I had a spiritual enlightening. I felt like St. Paul conversion, like, wow, there is Jesus, there's the resurrection. And then I was like, yeah, I got it. Something that I should have gotten at Easter time. Here I got it at my mom's death. And I'm flying high in this conversion, one would say. So what did I do? I go join the nunnery. I became a Catholic nun. So I was a Catholic nun for 12 years in the South Bronx.
Oh, wow. How does your faith shape your healing journey through personal traumas?
Let's take a quick break.
Hello, I would like to take a quick break to let you all know about my book called Overcomer, Discovering God's Plan Against All Odds. You can buy it on Amazon in a Kindle version, also in a paperback version. It is also available on Kindle Unlimited if you would like to buy it that way as well. It is my autobiography of my story and about my life. There will be also a link in the show notes in the bottom of the page. I hope you go and check it out, and hope you are encouraged by it and inspired by it as well. And now back to our show. God bless.
Well, like I said, my faith, at first I didn't really have a faith. And then, as with the situation with my mom's death and with that searching and becoming a sister, of course I had faith. At that moment I was faithful. I had faith knowing that, okay, this is my life. Once again, when I enter, I go, this is my life. I'm going to spend and dedicate my whole life to God and the church and to this community. But yet 12 years later, I got kicked out. So it was like, okay, there goes that dream or goal or whatever. Now I'm in my 40s. And I endured a lot of hardship during the convent days, my religious life. I mean, like I said, the last words they said to me that you don't belong here anymore. And so,
Why was that?
well, in hindsight, I look back. First of all, I don't think my faith was matured because I endured a lot. And if I was the person I am today back then, I wouldn't have put up with anything. And the way I looked at it is that the sisters, we just clashed. We just they had one spirit, I had another spirit. They were trying to confine me into their spirit, which was like strapped. And meanwhile, by nature, I'm a free spirit, loving person. And they were trying to change me, and I didn't realize it. And I was going against the grain. And I stayed because I was in final vows. I stayed because I was in a marriage. I stayed because, in my sixth, seventh year of religious life, I kept questioning myself, do I really belong here? Because I'm not happy. This is going on. This is going on. But yet I stayed. I persevered because I married God. God called me to this vocation. And then going through, I was sent away. I went for therapy. The sisters just didn't know what to do with me. And then at the end, they had the strength enough to say, hey, this is not for you. This life is not for you. And I'm like, for 12 years, I put my blood, sweat, and tears. I go, what's going on here? So I did. I left. In hindsight, it was the worst day, but then it became my best day because I wasn't meant to be there. God fulfilled one vocation, giving my life to Him, and I had great blessings there and great trauma. But yet at the same time, God kept, saying, okay, I have another plan for you, another door to open, another door. And at that time, when you asked about my faith, I just kept moving along. Okay, God, okay, you're God. I married you. I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand why religious people hurt me. I don't understand all this, but I'm just going to keep moving forward. So from there, after the convent, I went to go live with men and women with disabilities. And they were autism and as was Down syndrome. And so they were adults. And so I was their house mother. I stayed with them. And I experienced a lot of love from them. It was like a transition time. I couldn't come back into the world. I was like, what's the world? I lived an austere life. I slept on the floor. I didn't have couches. A lot of things I didn't have material things. So when I lived with the men and women with disabilities, I was loved. It was a transition. I was learning to come back to life, to live in the life, in the world. And I did that for 2 years. And then as my faith was still there, I still had this relationship with God. I'm still questioning what's going, what do you want in my life? But I kept moving forward. I was very broken when I left the convent. So I needed a lot of healing, there was a lot of anger, unforgiveness within me at the time, resentments and all that good stuff, and I was holding on to it, but I just kept moving forward. And then I decided to do what Gina wanted to do because I felt like I was doing what everybody else wanted to do in my life, that I came to the Jersey Shore because I love the beach. The beach is where heaven and earth meets. Came here. I learned how to rent an apartment. I'm like now in my 40s and then I had to get a job, right? Gina had to get a job, and what does she knows how to do? She knows how to bartend. So I went back to bartending. And at this point, I wasn't really angry with God. I was still with God. I was still practicing my faith at the time, going to church, bartending. And I said, okay, well, God, what's my next path? What do you want of me? And then bartending, I met a guy, because at this point I realized that I'm not going to be a religious sister anymore, that I will meet a guy. So I met this guy named Danny, great guy. I said, okay, God, this is it, right? Another plan in my life, another goal, that him and I, be together, live in Timbuktu, whatever. Have a house, always wanted a house, maybe not kids because I'm in my 40s now. I won't have those 5 kids that I wanted years ago, but I'll have a man in my life, to be with. Well, it turns out that he was an alcoholic, and I didn't realize that. And he was drinking at the time. And make a real long story short, he was fighting his own demons. And he did. He found sobriety, which is, he was a great man, simply sick. And he was one day at a time finding sobriety. He found it out west. And then we had another plan. I'm going to move out west with him. And we're going to, support his sobriety. I was going to Al-Anon, which is a 12-step program. But yet, as he was traveling, he has a story in himself that he ultimately got into a tragic car accident and he burned up. His mother was with him driving because they were, we were going to end up out west, but I wasn't in the car at the time because I was working. The mother died, he burned up, and we ended up in Indianapolis, Indiana. So I'm like, okay. And he survived the fire. It was a car accident. He was on fire and everything. I was like, okay, God, you survived. He's not going to drink. Everything will be fine. Well, what does an alcoholic do when they're in pain, in trauma? They drink. So he picked up. He started drinking again. Then ultimately, I ended up finding him dead a few months later. So that was my darkest point, my ending point. Like at this point, I kept, okay, God, I believe. Okay, God, everything's going. And then when I found Danny dead a month before wedding day, I was like, what's my purpose? Is my purpose to suffer? It's like I felt like Gina, like as you heard, I had all these dreams, these goals, and nothing was fulfilled. And then at this point, when Danny died, I was like, I give up. I give up. I'm done. I'm done. I have to be honest. Not that I didn't believe in God. I just didn't like him. I did not like him. I was like, I hated him. Because of what he did. I was like, I can't believe I blamed him with my whole life. I'm like, here I'm being a good person. Everyone loves me. And here, the sisters reject me. And then I find a man and then you take him away. And so this all happened in Indiana when he died and I was with him. And so I came back to Jersey. I was just simply existing. I was just like in such a dark place saying, okay, give it to Gina. She'll suffer. There was like no hope. I didn't have any hope. I didn't have any love. I didn't have any faith. And I just, to me, that's the existence of hell when you're in that kind of state of mind and being. But then yet God did for me what I couldn't do for myself, that he carried me. And once again, I was searching for the meaning why Danny died, being an alcoholic and other people are sober. So that's what brought me into the rooms of AA, just listening. And then a long story short, I come to realize, wow, I'm an alcoholic. So it was like, and that's where God, that's where God did for me what I couldn't do for myself. And that's where I developed a real deep spiritual relationship.
Okay.
Not a religion part, or spiritual with God. And then in that, it's like, wow, God willing, in April, I'll have 10 years of sobriety. So, so at the same time, God, in the rooms, we call it higher power. And I had to relearn about God. I had to relearn about higher power because I know who God was and I know who God is because I married him. But then I also know what happened to me. And I was like, this can't be God. Why is he doing it to me?
Right.
And so I just had to relearn. And the rooms of AA brought me a new relationship with God, a new life where I am free. So today, I'm a sober, faithful woman of God, that my faith has grown. And now I just recently, in the last few years, I started adding the scriptures. I started adding the church and everything like that to help me grow in who I am today. A child of God, a sober woman, a faith of God. And now I just love God because what he's done in my life. And that's where I share this. And I wrote my book, my memoir, last summer to spread the word that it's called Shake the Dust Off Your Feet and Walk. It's a scripture verse, which is exactly what happened in my whole life. Kept shaking the dust and kept walking. And today I still do. Today I still do. So that question of my faith, today is a lot stronger. And now I know I could handle life on life's terms, whatever comes my way, with God and for him and with the tools of the program and also seeing where I was and where I am today. I'm a much better place. I'm in the light today. So
Yeah. What do you think kept you? I mean, obviously you said it multiple times that you knew that God was there and that he, helped you to go through everything. But yet there were times in your life when you said, you know, where is God? I don't trust God and whatnot. What made you, what made you not walk away from that relationship or from not meaning that relationship with God? What kept you from not walking away and just saying, forget it, I quit, you know,
oh, that's a great question because there's not a perfect answer. I don't know why. Look back now because that's what moves me today is truly his grace and his mercy that kept me going,
yeah,
that his love kept me going without me realizing it. And I believe it's probably many people's prayers. I love that scripture, out of the depths of my heart, I cry out to you, Lord. And boy, that was my prayer throughout that time. Out of the depths, I cry out to you. I cry out to you. Even though I did want to give up, or to be honest with you, it wasn't that I felt like I gave up in a way. Like, what's the next trauma going to happen to me? Bring it on. Bring it on. I mean, I really wanted to die.
but he was still there with you even when you said I give up. He was still with you
Yeah.
during those times.
Yes, exactly. I did not know it, of course, because I was so filled with darkness. This is how I kind of describe my life, is that throughout my life, as I said, I was searching, I was insecure. And as situations happen, like my insides, this wall kept getting built up, this wall. And then by the time Danny died, my wall was so thick and so dark within inside me. It was like so concrete and cold and wet. I was like, okay. And that's, I didn't know how I was going to get out of it. I really did not know or where. I was sort of like confined. I was like, okay. Like I said, I was like, bring it on. My purpose is to suffer. I would never kill myself, but I did pray to die. I prayed like, God, please don't let me wake up tomorrow morning. And here I am. I woke up tomorrow. What do I do? Okay, push myself. I did get a job, but I didn't smile for about a year or two after Danny's death. I didn't want to smile. I see everyone else having a good life, and I'm like, that's not going to happen to me. Then, as I said, God did for me what I couldn't do for myself when he brought me into the rooms of AA. And when I realized that was kind of like my problem, like I was running away from, because I could have used these rooms 30 years ago with my drinking, but I didn't because I was sort of like running. I was an escaped artist. I love to escape life. I built up a false identity, smile over here, but meanwhile, my sides would be so painful that what am I going to do to ease that pain? So I do, like today, I can say it was truly God that did for me what I couldn't do for myself. And I just thank him. And I do believe when I do die on his terms, on his way, I'll see it all. Aha, that's why, that's why, whatever. Maybe I wouldn't see it. I mean, that's like, okay, I don't want to see because I'm with you, God. That's it.
Now, I mentioned in the introduction, that you're now an end-of-life doula. Can you
Yes.
explain to me and my audience what exactly that is, and how do you go into that, that
Yes.
life or that job?
Yeah, end of life doula it's a holistic way of being with someone who is dying. It's non-medical, so it's not like I'm a nurse. I don't work for hospice. I'm present to the dying. Like my service is whatever they want of me. Yeah, the families may call me and say, I have so and so. Can you talk to them? Yes, I go talk to them, and it depends on what they want. If they want me to sit there and be quiet, I sit there and be quiet. If they want me to pray, pray. A lot of many of them know I was a former nun, so it brings them comfort. So, in other words, End of Life Dude tries to bring comfort and peace to the dying as well as to the families during that challenging, difficult time. And the reason why I have a passion for it is that, like I shared with you, when I was with my mom, I didn't have that within me. When she died, it's like, where's she going? What is she doing? What's happening? And then when I experienced the taste of a resurrection, of a peace of heaven, I'm like, okay, why not? Why not be there, And so, and that grew as a sister. For some reason, it just grew. It was a seed that was planted when I was a nun, because people I knew did not know would call me, say, hey, sister, could you go visit so-and-so? They're, Johnny's brother's cousin, whatever they were, they're dying or whatever. And I'd be like, yeah, I would love to. And I just love to, because for me, what an honor is to give dignity to those who are dying, to give them dignity and respect. Some have families, some don't, and all I'm there is to, just whether they're open to it, some of them are not, I'll pray or just say, it's okay. It's, God's comfort, whatever faith, I
Right.
work with all faith denominations and whatever they think. I believe that there's a peace in heaven that's not of this, that's in another world that we're all called to go to embrace Jesus. That's mine. Some people may have some other peaceful place that they're going. And it's like, okay, that's okay. Because, you can have your peace here on earth, right? In accepting God's plan for us for today, and you find peace and, accept the cross, like, the sufferings and the pains, like, yes, I do it for you, God, and that you can find that peace. But yet there are many people that may not have that peace. And so as an end of life doula, I offer my services of being with them as well as being with the family too. It all depends. It really depends. There's no one way or right way. When I am called to go with someone, I pray, listen, try to hear what the Spirit is saying in my life, what to do or what not to do, just to bring that comfort and peace and knowing that they're not alone.
Yeah. Do you get to minister to the people or to the family at all? Or is that not
Yes.
like off?
No, it all depends. Like, I have to test it out. Yes. Like, for instance, last year, I wasn't exactly an end of life doula first, but I answered this. I had to be a caretaker for a mom, took care of her, like, spent time with her for about 3 months. And then the 4th month or 5th month, she was dying. So I was able to go on the role of as an end of life doula. And meanwhile, I had to be careful because some people don't want to hear it. Some people don't. So it's like, oh, and I just share about my experience, and usually when they are at their end and they can't talk, that's where they can't talk. I'll whisper in their ears and I'll be like, when you meet Jesus, give a hug to Jesus, give a hug to my mom, to my hug to my dad, to Danny. You're going to have a whole line. And at the same time, I pray for them, like I intercede for them, inviting the angels to come, heaven to come and open up, to open up that peace for this person.
Right.
So
You mentioned about your book, take the dust off your feet and walk. What inspired you to write it, and who do you hope it will reach?
yes, I wrote it because of my personal situation, like my personal experience in life. I started writing it after Danny died. I was in such a dark place that I felt journaling and writing out my pain. And as I was writing out the pain of my situation at the time, the pain of the sisters came up, which I held on to. I didn't, nobody knew. I wrote that out, my experience there. And then even in my childhood, like I said, I had great family, but I didn't like myself. There was that pain of insecurity, wrote all that out. And I wrote that like 10, 11 years ago after Danny died. And that was 180 pages. I put that aside. Now I go on my journey. Like I said, I'm in recovery. I have a new life. And a few years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine who likes to write too. And I said, hey, would you like to read these 180 pages? I really don't. And when she read it, she goes, right now, right where you are today. So that's what my book and my memoir is, from my journey through pain and suffering, how I kept going forward and forward. And who I want to reach today is to people, to give them that message of hope and strength, is to give them, to let them know that you're not alone, do not give up. I'm not here to take away their pain. That's what I've learned. We all have our own problems or disabilities or things like that. We can't take that away from them, their own situations, their own grief. I'm not there to take it away, but, if I'm reading my story, just know that you're not alone, that you're loved, that somebody's gone through, that there is a God, that there's somebody greater than you and me that have saved us and that is with us.
Amen. As you continue on your journey, what are your hopes and goals for the future, both personally and in terms of helping others?
Well, the goal of my book, is to touch many others. I'm also trying to promote myself as an inspirational speaker, motivational speaker, to share to people, not to give up. This book was really written for me because of continue more healing for me, and to say, wow. And when you look at yourself and when you write it out, you're like, not only I'm continue to being healed, then I'm able to help others to be healed. So that is my goal, is hoping that my story, my memoir, even if it's from word of mouth to say, hey, or from someone handing my book to someone to say, you got this, you got this. And also for those, who are in a good place. It's also for those who aren't in a good place, because they're like, hey, look where I am today. It's full of gratitude. Just shows how, wow, I'm grateful for what I have today, and to spread that gratitude, because a lot of people, as we know, there's so many people throughout the world that are suffering and that needs that encouragement, that word of God, or something like a light, that needs that light. So I hope my goal is to bring light to the darkness, to light to all, no matter what. And it doesn't have to be an alcoholic or anything. It's for all those suffering, grieving, you name it, pain, that feels hopeless. It doesn't matter what your situation, but know that there is faith, and that there is a God, a higher power, someone there that's working behind the scenes. And I see that now, and I try to spread that to others. Whether they see it or not, it doesn't matter. But if they hear it, seeds are planted, like seeds were planted for me years ago. It's like, aha, now I understand.
Absolutely. And as we know, the Bible, and I know the verse, I just don't remember where it is at the moment, but the Bible tells us that we will have trials and tribulations in our lives. Regardless of who we are and regardless of what we go through, we will have those trials and tribulations that we face.
Yeah. And, as a Christian, we have the cross to look to, right? Because Jesus had the trials and the tribulations in this life. He had the ultimate. And one gift, as I'm not, just saying as Christians, they, we turn to pick up your cross and follow me.
Right.
So it's like, but those are hard words to do. That's really painful.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say is that I do believe it's truly a grace from God. Like, it's God's grace. It's his, like St. Paul had the conversion on his head, when he fell off the horse. That was a graceful moment. And I believe graces are out there for all of us, as long as we try to be open to it, open and receive and be honest and willing.
Where can people buy your book and connect with you if they would like to connect with you or get you to speak on their podcast or come and speak to their group?
Yes, my book is called Shake the Dust Off Your Feet and Walk. It's available on Amazon. Or you could look at my website, which is GinaEcon.com. GinaEcon.com, where anyone contact me about any question or anything, whatever. I'm here to listen, to pray, to listen, whatever. I'm here. I'm open to anyone and to really encourage each one of us. We're like cheerleaders. Like you could do it. I'm the biggest cheerleader there is if you want a cheerleader on your side.
Well, Gina, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We greatly appreciate having you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, guys and girls, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, please go and like and check out Gina's website and Gina's book, and please go and like and check out my website as well. And until next time, hopefully you are encouraged and inspired by Gina's story. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you again for joining Dorsey Ross on this episode of The Dorsey Ross Show. Please like, share, and tell others about the show. Also, please check out the other podcast episodes. And if you would like, donate to this podcast and buy Dorsey a coffee. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.